Ma'am, please don't try to change that tire yourself in this heat. Let me help you. My daughter would be heartbroken if she knew I drove past someone struggling and didn't stop. 33-year-old Thatcher Grayson pulled his old pickup truck onto the shoulder of the desert highway, watching a woman in business clothes kneeling beside her sedan with a flat tire, her jacket discarded, sweat already soaking through her blouse in the brutal Arizona afternoon. He'd been driving home from a construction job, exhausted and anxious about tomorrow's custody hearing, but his conscience wouldn't let him pass someone in obvious distress. 28-year-old Ren Calloway looked up at this stranger, work boots, dusty jeans, calloused hands, and felt simultaneously grateful and wary. She'd been stranded for 40 minutes, her phone showing no signal, the spare tire proving too heavy for her to manage alone. But accepting help from strange men on deserted highways carried its own risks. "I appreciate the offer," Ren said carefully, "but I don't want to trouble you. I'm sure someone will stop eventually." "Ma'am, it's 103 degrees and there's been exactly 2 cars in the past 10 minutes. You'll get heat stroke before eventually shows up. I promise I'm harmless, just a dad who was raised right and can't drive past someone needing help. Let me change your tire, make sure you're safe, and you can be on your way. No expectations, no strings." Something in his genuine tone, the mention of being a father, the obvious concern without creepiness, made Ren relax slightly. "Okay, thank you. I'm Ren. Thatcher, and truly, it's no trouble. My little girl is 4, and I'm teaching her that we help people when they need it, even when it's inconvenient. Can't teach her that if I don't live it myself." As Thatcher worked efficiently on the tire, they talked. Ren learned he was a single father raising his daughter Clover after his wife left them both for a wealthier man, that he worked construction to make ends meet, that tomorrow he faced a custody hearing where his ex-wife, who'd abandoned them 2 years ago, was suddenly demanding custody now that she'd married into money and wanted to play mother again.
"I'm terrified," Thatcher admitted, tightening the last lug nut. "She has expensive lawyers. I have public defenders and a work schedule that looks terrible on paper because I'm juggling childcare. The system favors mothers, even ones who abandon their kids. I'm scared I'll lose Clover to someone who only wants her now as an accessory to her new perfect life." Ren's chest tightened with recognition and something she couldn't quite name. "You sound like a devoted father. Surely the court will see that." "I hope so," Thatcher said quietly, standing and wiping his hands. "But hope doesn't always win against money and lawyers. All I can do is tell the truth and pray someone listens." He checked the tire pressure one final time. "You're all set? Should get you wherever you're going safely." "How much do I owe you?" Ren asked, reaching for her purse. "Nothing. Seriously, helping someone isn't supposed to cost them. It's just what decent people do. Drive safe, stay hydrated, and maybe pay it forward when you see someone else who needs help." What Thatcher didn't know, what Ren carefully didn't reveal, was that she was Judge Ren Calloway, and tomorrow morning she'd be presiding over his custody case. She'd been driving back from a conference, taking the scenic route to clear her head when her tire blew, and now this man, whose entire future she'd hold in her hands tomorrow, had stopped to help her without knowing who she was or what she could offer in return. Professional ethics screamed at Ren to recuse herself from the case, but something made her pause, the desire to see how this situation played out, to understand this man's character beyond legal briefs and attorney arguments, to witness whether his kindness today was genuine or somehow calculated. That evening, Ren reviewed the case files with new perspective. The mother's attorneys painted Thatcher as unstable, inconsistent work hours, modest income, limited resources, but they conveniently omitted that those inconsistent hours were him prioritizing Clover's needs, that his modest income still provided a loving home, that his limited resources hadn't prevented him from raising a reportedly happy, healthy child for 2 years while the mother pursued her own interests. What the files also revealed, what made Ren's decision crystallize, was that the mother had made 0 contact with Clover in 18 months, had missed birthdays and holidays, had only filed for custody after remarrying wealth and facing social pressure about being a bad mother for abandoning her child. This wasn't about love, this was about image. The next morning, Thatcher sat nervously in the courtroom, his public defender looking overmatched against the mother's legal team. When Judge Calloway entered, Thatcher didn't initially recognize him. The professional robes and formal setting transformed yesterday's stranded motorist into an intimidating authority figure. But Ren recognized him instantly, and as the hearing proceeded, as expensive lawyers argued that Clover deserved the opportunities wealth provides, as the mother performed rehearsed tears about wanting her baby back,
Wren watched Thatcher sit quietly, his hands clenched, his face showing not anger, but fear, the terror of losing the child he'd raised alone with devotion and sacrifice.
When Wren finally spoke, her voice carried weight that silenced the courtroom. I've reviewed this case thoroughly. I've read depositions, examined evidence, and considered arguments from both counsel. But I've also had the opportunity to observe Mr. Grayson's character in an unexpected context. Thatcher's head snapped up, recognition dawning as he really looked at the judge for the first time. Yesterday afternoon, Wren continued, I experienced car trouble on a remote highway in extreme heat. Mr. Grayson stopped to help, a complete stranger with no obligation and nothing to gain. He changed my tire, refused payment, and mentioned he was teaching his daughter the importance of helping others even when it's inconvenient. He had no idea who I was, or that I'd be presiding over this case. The courtroom erupted in whispers. The mother's attorneys immediately objected, citing conflict of interest, demanding recusal. Wren raised her hand for silence. The defense is correct that this creates an unusual situation. However, I'm not recusing myself because what I witnessed yesterday speaks directly to the central question of this case. Who is the parent truly acting in this child's best interest? Mr. Grayson stopped to help someone despite being exhausted, anxious about today's hearing, and having every reason to focus on his own problems. That kind of character, that consistent prioritization of others' well-being, doesn't emerge overnight. It's forged through daily practice. Wren looked directly at the mother. Mrs. Morrison, you abandoned your daughter for 18 months. No calls, no visits, no child support. Not because you couldn't, but because you chose not to. Now, remarried to wealth, you want custody. Your attorneys argue about providing opportunities, but the greatest opportunity any child needs is a parent who chooses them every day, not just when it's convenient or socially advantageous. She turned to Thatcher. Mr. Grayson has been that parent. His inconsistent work hours are him arranging his life around his daughter's needs. His modest income has provided a stable, loving home. His actions yesterday, stopping to help a stranger despite his own stress, demonstrate the values he's teaching her. That's not instability. That's devoted parenting. Wren's gavel fell with finality. Custody remains with Mr. Grayson. Visitation rights for Mrs. Morrison will be supervised and conditional on consistent participation over the next 6 months. This child needs a parent who chooses her always, not one who chooses her when convenient. Court adjourned. Thatcher sat stunned, unable to process that the stranger he helped had not only turned out to be his judge, but had ruled in his favor. As the courtroom emptied, Wren approached him quietly. "Thank you," Thatcher said, voice breaking, "for seeing the truth, for understanding that I'm not perfect, but I'm present, for everything." "Thank you," Wren replied gently, "for reminding me why I became a judge, to recognize character and integrity, not just credentials and wealth. You stopped on a desert highway to help someone you'd never see again. That tells me more about your parenting than any attorney argument ever could. Your daughter is lucky to have you." "I almost didn't stop," Thatcher admitted. "I was so stressed about today, so consumed with my own problems. But then I remembered telling Clover that we help people even when it's hard. And I thought, what kind of father would I be if I didn't live what I'm teaching her?"
Exactly the kind of father she needs, Wren said. The kind who understands that kindness isn't transactional or convenient. It's a choice we make even when we're exhausted, scared, or struggling ourselves. You made that choice yesterday, not knowing it would matter in court. That's what made it matter most. Because true kindness reveals character. Stopping for strangers when you have your own crises. Helping without knowing what return might follow. Teaching children through actions rather than words that people matter more than convenience. We never know when our smallest acts of compassion become the moments that define us, that prove who we really are when no one's watching, that demonstrate the values we're teaching our children simply by choosing to see other struggles and lighten their burdens despite carrying our own. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's spread more stories of kindness and hope together.